She made the payment, $96. The balance dropped by 13. The next month, it happened again, and again after that. The payments were real, but the balance barely moved. Over time, the pattern becomes visible. Each month, money leaves the account. Each month, the obligation remains. The system appears to be working, but the outcome does not change. This is not a missed payment. It is not a default. It is a completed cycle, repeated. Across millions of accounts, the same structure produces the same result. Payments continue, balances persist. Minimum payments are rising. At the same time, total credit card balances are reaching record highs. Interest rates remain elevated. The system is active, but the balances are not resolving. This outcome is often explained as behavior. Households are described as overspending or failing to manage repayment effectively. But this explanation remains incomplete. It focuses on decisions while the structure remains unchanged. Because the payment itself is not neutral, it is defined by the contract, and that contract determines how the balance evolves over time. Each month, the minimum payment is calculated as a small percentage of the balance, typically between 1 and 2%. This amount is then combined with interest charges and fees. The result becomes the required payment. When that payment is made, most of it covers interest. Only a small portion reduces the principal. In some cases, the principal does not decline meaningfully at all. The outcome is consistent. The balance remains active, interest continues to accumulate, and the cycle repeats. This is not a side effect, it is a mechanism. The structure slows amortization by design. It allows balances to remain extended over time. Payments continue, but resolution is delayed. This mechanism does not depend on individual behavior alone. It is embedded in the structure of the product. Issuers apply consistent formulas across accounts. Payment networks process transactions without altering repayment structure. Regulatory frameworks require disclosure, but they do not change the underlying calculation. The system reinforces itself through contracts, incentives, and standardized design. The minimum payment is not just a requirement, it is a structural anchor. Most payments cluster around it. Households either pay in full or they pay the minimum. Few operate in between. This creates a predictable flow. Interest is collected steadily over time. Balances remain extended. Revenue remains stable for issuers. Risk is distributed across millions of accounts. The system continues to function, even as pressure increases. For households, the impact accumulates gradually. Monthly payments rise, but principal declines slowly. Interest absorbs a growing share of each payment. Over time, this reduces financial flexibility. It limits savings and increases reliance on continued credit use. Delinquency begins to rise, not as a sudden event, but as a gradual shift in payment capacity. For the system, the outcome is dual. Interest income expands, while credit risk builds beneath the surface. The structure remains stable in the short term, but pressure accumulates over longer cycles. The minimum payment appears to offer flexibility, but structurally it extends obligation. It converts short-term liquidity into long-term cost, and it does so consistently across millions of accounts. The outcome does not change until the structure does. Balances begin to decline more meaningfully when payments move beyond the minimum threshold, not because behavior changes, but because allocation does. When interest is reduced, a larger share of each payment reaches principal, and the same payment produces a different result. When revolving balances are converted into fixed-term structures, the timeline becomes finite, and the system shifts from continuation to resolution. The cycle persists when new balances are added. It stabilizes only when expansion stops. These are not strategies, they are conditions, points where the structure shifts and the outcome follows. Because the system does not require failure to produce this result, it only requires participation, and it changes only when the structure is interrupted. If you find these explorations useful, consider subscribing.